Hello everyone. So my first topic is around, I have some notes here, single page applications and the complexity which it involves. And just for those of you who don't know, my name is Andrzej Krzywda. I'm the CEO of Arkansas. I'm a programmer. I've been programming for 20 years. I'm usually trying new things very often, and I'm mostly connected to the Ruby on Rails community. So if you're doing Ruby, there's a chance you may have heard about Arkansas or my name. I've started experimenting with single page applications very early. It was somewhere like 2011. I remember when I was teaching Ruby on Rails to students at the University of Wrocław, I said it was 2010. They were really smart students, and I said that very, very soon we will see a strong separation between backend and frontend, and that frontend will just use some JSON to generate to receive the data. And in 2010, it was still a very shocking and controversial opinion, but it was actually one of my predictions which worked. Many of my predictions don't work, and the prediction worked much faster than I expected, I think. And very, very quickly, we've had a situation where the frontend was totally separated from the backend. I think initially it was with the Angular framework. There were other frameworks. Now it's more like with React or Vue. What I didn't predict, so I thought that architecturally or as the infrastructure architecture, that this is a good idea, this kind of separation, mostly for modularity which it brings. What I think I didn't realize back then, and now it kind of surprised me in the end, was how much it will go into specialization. So before 2010, most of the web programmers could do backends and frontends, and now we seem to see organizations, companies switching to this model of people specializing in either frontends or backends. And this is interesting. It's hard to be opinionated in this area because on the frontend part itself, there's so much you need to learn that it's hard to be an expert. And if you want to be an expert in frontend and backend, it's close to impossible. Still, and I see the reason why companies switch to this model of specialization. I think it scales better. You can replace people more easily. For some parts of the front-end work, you can hire juniors. Not all of them, but for some parts of the backend, you can hire juniors. And it's much easier to find people who are good at least one of those. So, but just to bring you this context, I work at Arkansas, and at Arkansas, we try to be full-stack developers. So we mostly do single-page applications. Maybe not mostly, but we are okay with this choice. But we are not separating our roles, so one person can do the front end and the back end. Obviously, we are not experts on everything, but at least we can finish a feature from the database level to the front end level. And this kind of separation, as I see it in other organizations, brings the situation where one person is not able to finish a feature. And for example, the front-end people often feel blocked by the backend people, and the other way around, backend people feel like the front-end people, they don't catch up or something like this. The API is working, but they didn't finish the job, or there is a lot of back and forth between them. The API doesn't work as documented, so it's a bit of a problem and a bit of an issue. Another issue was that, and again, what was the situation before single-page applications? So in terms of the Ruby on Rails applications, we were just generating HTML on the backend, and then we send the HTML always with full reloads of the website, of the web page, to the front end. Now there are the single-page applications approach where you send the JSON. There are some hybrid approaches with turbo links, for example, where you just send some updated pieces of the website. There was this thing called remote JavaScript, RJS, where you just send JavaScript bits. DHH, the charismatic leader of the Ruby on Rails community, he's advocating the idea of sending HTML, but then you have JavaScript sprinkles, as he calls it. So small JavaScript parts, not single-page applications, but just parts of JavaScript. So at the beginning, the JavaScript was usually used not that heavily. over time there was more stuff, drag and drop, and more like visual stuff. And later on, the data management came in as well. So the data was kept on the JavaScript part as well. And the problem at the technological level is that, for example, we are a Ruby company, but we have to do JavaScript or whatever else we choose, Elm or TypeScript or whatever. So there is a technological mismatch, and you have to switch between two different syntaxes. Today we've had, on Fridays we have those weekly technical conversation at Arkansas, and today we've had an interesting discussion around like frontend and backend. And I think we have this kind of discussion, I don't know, every half a year, where we have some new insights, new opinions, in what direction it all goes. Let me just see whether this is working here. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to say was that, and I still don't know what's the right answer, so I'll just share my current brainstorming ideas. Whether the frontend is just a client to the backend, or it's more like two separate applications, the way you think about it, or a new approach which I started to think about it is that there are actually two different versions of one product line. So on the UI level, you are thinking about the same kind of objects, or I don't know what, data as in the backend. It's just there are some differences how you present it, and there are some differences how the code works. So in order to think about it as a product line, and a product line means that you have some products here, meaning the software, sharing some kind of maybe core functionality, but they exist in different variations or versions. So they have different functionalities, but there is some common stuff. And I think over time I'm closer and closer to think that frontend and backend is this situation. We are working on the same product, it's just different versions. So for example, in the frontend stuff, on the frontend part, you usually don't have the real persistence. So it's a version of your application where you don't have the database persistence, while the backend has the Postgres persistence or active record persistence or whatever. While at the backend you don't have the formatting part, how to present that text, nicely formatted to the user. So it's kind of disabled on the backend, it's enabled on the front end. And if you think about it this way, obviously it requires that it should be one technology. So we are probably still in this phase of the technology adoption, where for historical reasons we use different technologies on the backend and the front end. There will be some solutions sooner or later, whether it's WebAssembly or, I don't know, in case of Ruby, we can use Opal, which is the Ruby implementation for the browser. If you're a Python programmer or PHP programmer, there are some other possibilities probably. So I think within 1 decade or 2 decades, we will be much more like it would be more normal, and the whole JavaScript ecosystem will normalize as well and stabilize. So thinking about having the same technology on both parts makes it much easier, because then we think about all these features as modules in the code, and we can enable or disable the certain areas of the code. So some concerns are easily separated using just, you just load this module or not. So for example, formatting or persistence. Maybe persistence actually is the one that is harder. So some of the concerns are easily modularized. Some of the concerns are so-called cross-cutting concerns, like persistence, distribution, error handling, and tracing. And this is harder to easily modularize. So this is a topic for probably another live. This is a topic for, I'm now working on a module for the Rails Architect Masterclass, the online class that we have at Arkansas for people. And I'm now working on aspect-oriented programming modules. So this is more advanced stuff. This is like extension to object-oriented programming on how to deal with those cross-cutting concerns. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video, hopefully. Goodbye, have a nice weekend.